Hey guys, Pie Guy Rules here with a very, very special edition of Topic of Discussion. And no, it doesn't have anything to do with Nick News. Today's topic is my favorite movie studio. More specifically, I'm going to be ranking their films in order. So it's going to be a long one, but don't worry, this is a relatively new production company. I, of course, am talking about Pixar. I love Pixar movies. If you asked me where I wanted to work, like what my absolute dream job would be, probably working as an animator or writer or director or something at Pixar. I love the way their business is run. I love their movies. I love everything about them. And they're a part of Disney. They're like the best part of Disney, actually, because there's some of Disney's magic while avoiding a lot, definitely not all, of Disney's problems. So I've got my iPad here. I have listed all 13 films in order of the least amount that I like to the most amount that I like. Monsters University is going to be the next one to come out, and that hasn't come out yet. The last one out is Brave. And I'm ranking these not as a film critic, not as like a critic of anything, just as my personal taste. I mean, you'll see some film critic-y things get thrown in here, but this is just how much I like these movies. So let's start with number 13, my most disliked Pixar movie. This was an easy one, Cars 2. I have not seen it. It's the only Pixar movie I haven't seen. I have no intentions on doing so. And, I mean, I can tell you just from the previews that this was a bad movie. And the things that I heard about it weren't much better. Now, it's not an absolute, abomination of a film, but it was definitely pandering to kids, definitely made because of merchandising, and it broke one of Pixar's rules that I always admired was that they weren't going to make a sequel until there was a good story. They weren't going to have, they weren't going to pitch, let's do a sequel to X. They were going to pitch, let's do a sequel to X where this, and this happened. And then they think about it and they'll be like, okay, well that makes sense. So with Cars, it was pretty much, well, let's turn it into a spy film and have it star Mater. What? Like, what? So, yeah, it's not, horrendously horrible, but it definitely stands out for not being a Pixar classic in my mind. And that segues us into my number 12 pick, which is Cars. I didn't like Cars. I did see that one. I thought it was too much for kids, to be honest. I thought it was a little bit, again, marketing-wise, let's sell them a bunch of these toys. And if you think that that whole Cars 2 being made, at least in part because of the toy deals, is, full of crap, well, just remember, they're making a Planes spin-off, and Pixar isn't making it. Disney is. And if you think that I'm, just saying, oh, well, Planes could have a chance at being legitimately good, no. They already have a Planes 2 in the works. That is pure money, dear boy, for Disney. And I don't believe Cars was made with the intention of that, but I can't help but feel that it's at least a little bit there. And it's kind of a bland story. It's kind of like, well, here's this superstar, and then he goes and he gets humbled by this humble town, and that's about it. I mean, it does some clever things. It's alright. It's better than Cars 2, and it's nothing bad for your kids. It's not like, I'd see it once, and I did see it once, but I'd prefer not to see it again. But if I did, if someone really wanted to see it, and I was there, I wouldn't stop them. That Cars is alright. It's middle of the road, but it's not Pixar magic for me, like pretty much all the rest of the films on this list are. So that brings me to my number 11, which is A Bug's Life. This is probably the most forgotten about Pixar movie. It was their second movie, right off of Toy Story, and this is the one where their learning curve kicked in, because Toy Story was just an instant hit. They hit gold. And Bug's Life was really where they kind of roughed out some of the things, some of their, being a new film studio bugs. That was an awful pun. They got rid of some of those bugs, to say the least, in making this movie. Again, nothing near a bad movie, but it has its flaws and its weird quirks. But it definitely has, those Pixar memorable characters that, like Flick and the whole, the circus crew. You don't remember their names, but you remember, there was the ladybug who was a manly dude and hated being considered a lady. There was the caterpillar who had that German accent. There was a lot of cool characters and, a few cool setups, but it is definitely falls into more forgettable territory of all the Pixar movies in relation to the rest of the Pixar movies. It would probably be the most forgettable, to be honest. But that doesn't make it a bad movie. There's plenty of things to like about it, and it's just when you're making a list, when there's all these good movies on it, it's hard to put stuff at the bottom. Cars 2 and Cars were pretty much a no-brainer for me, but then I really thought about it, and A Bug's Life just didn't make the impact that most of these other films made for me. Okay, so number 10, we are up to Brave. Yeah, Brave is the most recent film, and again, I didn't feel like it captured the Pixar magic. It felt like a Disney movie. It felt like Brother Bear mixed with Tangled, and yeah, Brother Bear is a thing that's been done. I hated Brother Bear, by the way. Not a Pixar, but a Disney. But another thing about this movie is that it's not as stylized as all the rest of them. It's about humans. I mean, it's got the cool mountains going on, and the whole everyone has an accent. It's very very cultural. But it's not going to stick in my mind as well as the other films. And I feel like there was a lot going on in this movie, way too much. There's the plot where she has to get married. There's the plot where there's this backstory of the kingdom. There's the plot with the mother being turned into a bear. There's a witch that appears and, literally disappears. She is plot convenience witch. I get that she's only there to move the plot along, but I mean, she should have at least a little bit more of a part in this whole thing. It felt more like a Pixar movie. It felt more like a Disney movie than a Pixar movie. And again, that's not a bad thing, but it's not the charm that I'm really hitting at here. And here's where it gets really tough. Here's where you're probably going to be like, no, Pie Guy, you can't pick that one to be your number 9 and 8 and 7, but I have to, okay? Number 9, The Incredibles. I love The Incredibles. I absolutely adore it. But if I'm going to rank Pixar movies, it also doesn't have the high stylistic that the rest of them on this list pretty much do. It's got all the superhero themes, and it's fun to see humans for the first time in Pixar, like fully fleshed out humans. The designs are great, the action is great, but the story, it's a little basic. It's, a superhero kind of longs for the life that he gave up, that he had to give up, and he wants to get back into it, but there's this evil plot going on. It's alright, it's great, in fact, but it's not, there's a Pixar magic that they're just on the cusp of. And this was one of their relatively earlier movies. It's in the first half, I suppose. But I feel like, 10, 20 years down the road, you'd probably forget Bug's Life first, probably Brave second, and maybe The Incredibles third. But again, great movie, and I love it, and I have it on DVD, so no ill will there. Number 8, Toy Story. I love Toy Story. I absolutely love Toy Story. But as I was talking about with A Bug's Life, they were a brand new animation studio. There are some issues with the movie. They worked around it. Like, for a first movie, it is an amazing first movie. And I feel like also its impact has been lessened by the fact that Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3 were also amazing sequels. Toy Story 1 is absolutely classic, but story-wise, Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3 definitely trump it, at least in my opinion. Toy Story was definitely a testing of the grounds, and it is a great movie, and it will always be a classic, but it's not a masterpiece. Alright. So, that brings me to number 7, which is Up. Yeah, this was hard. This was hard. I didn't think I'd put Up as low as I did, because that first sequence in Up, that beautiful storytelling, where it tells the life of two kids who fall in love and grow old together, and one of them tragically passing, and all of the ups and downs in their relationship, where they find that they can't have kids, and it's all shown just really fast through visuals, just and music, no dialogue. It is great, and even the premise of just this old guy with the balloons, it's great. I love it. I felt like it had somewhat of a weak ending, and I think it's more of my personal preference. I felt like the first half or third of the movie is just absolutely classic and brilliant and inventive, and then the last part kind of falls into territory. Not bad, but I can't tell you a lot of the stuff that happened in the middle of this movie. It's just not that memorable. But that beginning sticks out so much in my mind. So that's pretty much it. And you're going to see that for actually the next 2 movies. I have similar opinions. These 2 coming up and Up were close to just kind of being jumbled up into different positions in the 7th, 6th, and 5th slots. Next is WALL-E. I have fairly the same opinion that I do with Up, in that it is beautiful for the first third or half of the movie, but then it kinda it kind of dips a little bit. It gets a little goofy with the humans, and there's nothing horrible about that. There's nothing bad about that, but it's just I don't know. I will always remember the first part of that movie and always kind of meh at the last part of it. And again, great, I'd still see it again. I love these movies, Up and Wall-E. I love them. But if I'm looking at them from what movie would I keep watching over and over again, I'd watch Up and Wall-E maybe like twice or three times in a month maximum, and definitely no more. But, and then that brings me to the fifth one, which is Ratatouille. Similar, except it doesn't necessarily fall off at the end like the others do. I really like Ratatouille, and I really feel like it was underrated. It definitely wasn't kind of it was more low key. It was a more low key Pixar movie, which is strange, all things considered. And I feel like I don't know how kids would really respond to this. I'm not saying it's bad for kids or anything, but I feel like if you're really into cooking, if you're really into the culture of Paris, if you're really into a lot of that, and I'm not like really into it, but I can appreciate it. I feel like I have more of an appreciation for this movie than maybe a kid would. Again, not to say that a kid wouldn't find it entertaining or love it or anything, but I think it really appeals to someone with a dream. It really appeals to someone who wants to be the very best, like no one ever was. And I guess it's a dream that seems impossible. That seems very impossible. Like take me for example. I want to go out there in Hollywood and make my own animation and stuff, but it's a dream that feels so very far away and so very hard to take even the first step towards. And I like the relationship between the rat and the chef. It's a cute little relationship, and I like that they didn't go with the rat being able to talk to the human. It's more of like they can gesture to each other, and it's a little goofy with the hair, but I thought it was a cute way of getting it all across. And definitely a very stylized movie with the setting in France and the whole food cuisine culture. Yes. And then number 4, Monsters, Inc. Yeah, here we're getting into territory where I could just keep watching these movies over and over and have them playing in the background. And I mean, Monsters, Inc. is great. Again, being one of the earlier Pixar movies, I would say that I'd say that that's why this didn't end up like 3 or higher in the top 3. I think only because of that, only because there's one or two rough things about the movie, that maybe it could have flowed a little bit better. But I mean, it is so enjoyable to watch. Like, just it's so cute, the relationship between the kid and between Sully and kind of Mike's jealousy. I mean, and the villain is great. The villainous plot could have been a little bit better, a little bit less predictable, I guess you could say. But man, and the climax of this movie when you're zooming through the doors and all of that is great. That is amazing. I watched it in 3D recently, and I'll get to why I'm okay with watching it in 3D in a different topic of discussion. But I mean, it was beautiful in 3D. It looked great, and it just that's one of the cool things about Pixar movies. They often have some really good climaxes, except for the ones that are kind of forgettable in my opinion, like WALL-E. But I mean, the climaxes are the forgettable part, in relationship to the rest of the movie. But anyway, my number 3 choice. So at this point, there's 3 movies left, and 2 of them are sequels to each other. Do you think that I would pick Toy Story 2 or Toy Story 3 above each other? I'll give you a hint. These are the next 2. But yes, in my number 3 slot, I picked Toy Story 2. Okay. I'm going to talk about both these movies because number 2 is Toy Story 3. I'm going to talk about both of these in tandem because I personally feel like they kept upping themselves. I feel like Toy Story 3 was the natural progression, and I feel like Toy Story 2 was great. It nailed it. It had that awesome climax at the luggage, in the airport, which is very similar to the Monsters, Inc. one. It had that cool climax. It had that cool kind of, Buzz leading all the troops, and the Woody discovering his history, and Jessie being the interesting new character, and I don't know if it was completely an original plot twist with the prospector. I guess you could kind of see it coming, but it was a little bit more well hidden. And I even like Al, like the toy collector. Like, I could even appreciate it. I don't side with him on pretty much stealing the toy from a kid, But I can definitely understand how if you dedicated your life to collecting these toys, or I mean, even if you saw a ton of value in this toy, and it was just at a garage sale, like, it's understandable how you'd be a little bit desperate. You wouldn't steal from a kid, that would be horrible, or, a family like that. But even still, you can kind of understand his motives a little bit. But a great movie. But Toy Story 3 is a great movie from like 6 different perspectives. It's a great movie. It's a great animated movie. The animation's great, and most importantly to me, it is a great cultural movie. The culture behind this movie and how Pixar has grown as a company, how the kids watching Pixar movies, namely myself, have grown up and are, like in college. Heck, I keep this, knocking stuff over. I keep this in my college to on my desk to remind me here about it. But it's just it it just it does such a good job of capturing growing up, and I guess I am probably biased. This is where I say this isn't purely a film critic thing, because I am biased towards the third movie for just being. It just nails it. It nails that growing up feeling, and I didn't cry at the end. No, I won't say I did, because it's not true. But I did feel something. I did really feel like, I felt like I was Andy, and I think that's what a lot of people in the theater felt like, even if they weren't necessarily going through the age, even if they weren't a kid when Toy Story came out, and even if they were a little bit older, then they know what this was like, and even from a kid's perspective, they can kind of understand looking at Andy as an older person. I guess I would imagine, but I feel like it nails that feeling so much, and it's a great, and it doesn't sacrifice being a great film just to pander to us who grew up with the film. It does such a good job of writing that right into the story. It is amazing. And that's why I picked Toy Story 3 over Toy Story 2. And that's why I'm going to apparently be arrested for it. So let's finish this up before that. My number one choice, can you guess it? If you can guess it, you're good at Pixar knowledge. If you can't, come on, guys. Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo, I don't even know how to say it. I think the easiest way to describe it is that I could watch this movie over and over again. I bought the 3D Blu-ray DVD combo mega pack, even though I don't even have a 3D Blu-ray player or 3D TV or whatever. I bought it for like the digital copy and stuff, just because it's a great movie to even have on in the background. It's a great movie to watch. There's so many intricacies to it. There's so many different characters, so many different moments. It cuts back and forth between Nemo's little journey in the tiny tank and Marlin's journey in the huge ocean. It just it nails it so much, and it gets that Pixar style so right. It nails both the fact that it's underwater and fish themed and aquatic themed, and it also nails a little bit of Australian culture in there too. Like, gosh, it's a good movie and just so enjoyable to watch. Like, the characters are so likable too. Like, you really feel desperate for Marlin. And I mean, and both, I never even noticed this, but apparently, I've been watching all the DVD behind the scenes, Blu-ray behind the scenes stuff and commentaries and everything. This is how I know this stuff. But Gil, the fish, like the edgy fish in Nemo's tank, the one with the bad fin like Nemo, he serves as a surrogate father to Nemo. But unlike Marlin, he's willing to put Nemo in, risky situations, let him try and stand on his own. And he's able to kind of teach Nemo that, whereas Marlin wouldn't. And Dory serves as a surrogate child to Marlin. That's why there's no relationship, context there, because she is a pseudo-child to him, and he needs to learn to kind of trust in someone who is maybe a little bit more ignorant than him, who doesn't know of the harsh realities. And it has so many good messages, too, about trusting your kid, and your kid trusting that your parent is right sometimes, and understanding the danger around you, but not letting it control your life. It nails it so well, and I don't even know how to explain it any more than I did. But I mean, even if, that's actually, I guess, a good way to look at it, is if you want to rank movies, check which movie that you would personally watch over and over again, or like within the span of a month, how many times would you watch this movie? And, I mean, there are great films that you wouldn't necessarily watch more than once, but I'm just saying, in this context, at least with these Pixar films, that is the easiest way for me to do it, and I hope you guys enjoyed this list. I know this was a long video. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my choices. But remember, it's all opinions, so don't be getting all like, whoa, pie guy, that's crazy talk. Just be like, I personally disagree. I like, this movie first, or whatever. So, remember to leave that all in the comments, and that's about it. Pie Guy Rules, out. Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe if you liked me, like this video if you, like this video, and comment if you have an opinion on anything that I just said. Oh, and I also have a Twitter. Follow me at Pie Guy Rules. I usually respond to any comments or questions that I get. Pie Guy Rules, out.